looks bad. Here, hang on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SKTLs Crypto Volunteers Call. We do it every week on Wednesdays at this time. We have Dan Geraci, the CEO of Freefall Aerospace, and no longer a blurry background guy. We have the American Badass, and we have Kamana, the Crypto Badass.
Oh, gee, thanks.
And
A bunch
I don't want to like steal half a guy's title. So.
Yeah,
I
what are
know.
you doing? Get away from me! Get away from me!
And what kind of ass are you? I mean, really, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at least
What a
Yeah, good
collection!
ass, I guess.
What a
Yeah.
collection! Yes, the Donkey Club.
y'all.
I had an exciting story. I'll start with. I was on a cruise last week and left from Port Canaveral. When we got back, we were in Cocoa Beach for a couple days, and I thought that we were going to be able to see Artemis take off, but they delayed it, and we were standing outside of the Tasty Treat ice cream shaped place, and my wife looks over and she says, "What is that?" I'm like, "I don't know. What is that?" She goes, "That's got to be a rocket." And up from the Tasty Treat, SpaceX was a Falcon was taken off. So
Nice.
taking Starlink up, like got my camera out and videotaping. It was awesome. It was great.
That's
cool.
So that was my first rocket launch, and it was very cool. I mean, you could hear it, feel it. It was great.
Where's the video for show and tell?
Yeah, really.
I don't know. It's on my phone. I don't.
What did you do on your summer vacation?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, the old days.
Yeah. So that was cool. We had a good time doing that. My girls were excited. Everybody was excited. It was neat.
I bet. Yeah, nothing that exciting here in Arizona other than the heat. So it's here. So it's it'll quiet down around here come another month or two when people start escaping and no one wants to be here. But
Mm.
a lot going on. A lot going on in the industry. A lot of interesting news. A lot of contracts. A lot of international stuff. You've got Russia being accused of putting up an anti-satellite system and in the same orbit as a U.S. government satellite. And then there's all this posturing going on. A lot of military activity. Space Force is just saying now that they're going to order close to $2 billion worth of additional space communications infrastructure equipment
Wow.
this year. We're just seeing so much work being done. I've been having a lot of calls with Defense Department people talking about grants and what we should be going after as a business. And they're so slammed with requests that they're efficient. That's put that in quotes and with a couple of asterisks, but they're supposedly efficient system for submitting ideas and proposals is just a massive traffic jam.
Well, that has to be a positive for like a rocket lab and a SpaceX, right? I mean, if all this stuff is getting ordered and contracts and all these things, it's gotta. They want these guys to be launching every days, right? So it's got to be good.
Yeah, and the pressure, the squeeze is on launch capacity. And then when you get to that, you get down to, well, who can launch what? So, there's a company sitting over here with a bunch of, launches ready to sell, but they can't launch half of what needs to be launched. Either the rocket's the wrong size, or it can't carry the payload, or it can't get to the right orbit. And so once again, you fall back to what is now old reliable, which is SpaceX.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, is the ULA launch, the Artemis launch, is it like indefinitely delayed now? Is that the news?
I was looking for something on that, and I didn't. I would hope to find some stuff because we had a conversation about this. I was at the Planetary Society. We had our board meeting or semi-annual in Washington last week. So we spent some time with people from Goddard and people from the Applied Physics Lab at Johns Hopkins. And one of the things we talked about was Artemis. The other, of course, was Mars sample return, which I can speak to, but I'm just trying to see if I've got anything that I can pull up on Artemis real quick. But it's just plagued by the let's see. All they're talking about is, yeah. See, there's no new news I'm seeing.
And they had some technical failures, right?
Yeah, yeah. And NASA fashion, everything's triple redundant, literally.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they want zero risk, which is why it takes them so long. Versus SpaceX, who says, send it up. If it blows up, we'll build another one. Taxpayer money is a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
So we went to Kennedy Space Center while we were down there and did the tour and everything. And a lot of the stuff they talk about, I was kind of telling my girls, and like, yeah, these guys, it's this way because they're just slower and bureaucracy. And I said, SpaceX is just doing crazy stuff and kind of bypassing these guys. It's pretty interesting. I was surprised to see that Blue Origin had two huge buildings right outside of KSC right there. And then one of the doors was open. You could see a rocket being built in there. So they're moving along with their stuff. That was interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, when the launch sites were handed out, when Space Force assigned launch capacity and launch pads, Blue and SpaceX got the old Apollo, 39A, I think it is. BA, I think it is, and then Blue Rocket Lab got allocated space there. Even Phantom here in Tucson got allocated some space for launching, so that they could put buildings up and start having, like if you look inside of SpaceX's facilities at the Cape, it's like a collection of rockets sitting.
Yeah, I didn't see their space.
They're just filling them up because at some point it's going to be launch, roll out the next one, launch, and you'll have multiple launch pads going at the same time at some point, where you're going to see multiple rockets going up, kind of like an airport, with enough time in between launches. But this is going to be something that's got to accelerate. And right now, all the launches are being sucked up by the military. We've got commercial launches being pushed because we need to send up an X-37B. We need to set up a couple of new satellites. There's a project from DARPA that never showed up on anybody's list until, it's launching this week. So it's a big problem.
Sorry, XYZ consumer, you just got bumped.
Yeah, well, and that's what happened to us with our little, NASA payload that we're trying to fly, and now it's been pushed to June, I think 22nd. So, and I'm expecting that we're going to hear, oops, it slipped again. So,
you all are going up on Firefly. Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of NASA payload on that, but there's also commercial, and so the least they got approved. Our satellite, our test is sitting it's been integrated, so it's all sitting at Vandenberg waiting for that day because it'll launch from there. One of the big topics I can tell you is, this Mars sample return issue of, Congress said, no, it's out of the budget. So we sent Perseverance. We spent billions of dollars. We've collected all these samples. They're all laying where they're supposed to on the Martian surface to be picked up. And, I guess we're not going to pay to go pick them up. And
I don't understand the problem when you can print as much money as you want. You can just...
No, they don't want to print it now. The government and this NASA administrator, you talk to the scientists, they are not happy with the support they're getting. Bill Nelson, he's a former astronaut. If you talk to the astronauts, and to this day, everybody knows, but you get a call sign when you go into space. You have your call sign. His call sign on the space station and across NASA, his official call sign, ballast. That's his name. Wow. So, and exactly what it means. He's dead weight. He was dead weight on the space station. That's what they call him. And he jokes about it. I mean, he knows. But it's like, but by the way, there's a message there. Now, the real news is that the commercial space industry is jockeying to see if they can get the Mars sample return contract. So if the government's not going to do it, the commercial companies are saying, well, if NASA will pay some of it, I can figure out a way. We'll get a few countries to build different parts, and let's do it commercially. And I think, and believe me, the phone lines have been lighting up to some of the leading space universities, Arizona State, for example, from companies saying, we need some help. We want some advice on putting together a planetary mission.
Wow.
Because commercial has no experience with that. And so,
is there commercial value for the samples themselves and the research and all that will come from it?
Downstream, but no one will buy that business case today. I think this is a national priority. We don't want the bad guys to get there first and pick them up. We've got to find another way to do it. We can't wait for humans to pick them up, because it won't be our humans probably if we wait that long. There's a lot of value, and there's a lot of technology there that can be taken, reverse engineered, etc. This isn't throw a bottle in the ocean with a note. This is throw your intellectual property and your competitive advantage in the ocean with a note, and that's a real issue. So we'll see what happens, but there's a part of me that would kind of hope to see that happen, a commercial company step up. But boy, is it going to be a completely different undertaking. The amount of money required, there isn't a commercial company that can afford to do this, because the NASA mission was around 10 billion, 8 to 10 billion for their sample return and a 10-year time frame. So, but if it happens, if commercial can pull this off with some government funding, not the full amount, obviously, this is another bad one for NASA, because it's another thing that the commercial sector was able to do that NASA couldn't, because of its very nature and structure and funding. So this will be something interesting to watch play out, because the competition amongst commercials to get something like that would be massive. Personally, I'd like to see a jointly done commercial mission, but there's too much at stake for whoever gets it and wins it to want to share, because that will be a death blow to the competition for a whole bunch of other things. And so we're assuming SpaceX is doing a lot of work, but they don't talk. We're assuming some of the others are working on this, but most of them aren't saying anything out loud. But we are aware of a few. So that's the bigger news. Yeah.
Kavana, crypto news?
Well, we touched on it last week that Bitcoin was kind of moving up, I guess, with what was the CPI / inflation data. We got a data barrage last week, and it was kind of like lagging, and then kind of played catch up. And self-admittedly, I did some buys heavy on Monday morning, and it worked out rather well. And little did I know that ETF stuff would, which we also talked about last week. That happened to just bubble up, I guess, later that morning or afternoon. The main reason that I went in for those buys is May has always been kind of a bullish month, particularly for Bitcoin. In the past, the COVID year was like a little strange, but if you go back in the chart and if you look at the current chart right now, it was in a very nice flag, like multi-month flag. And I was like, well, this is probably like a good a time as any to do it. Now, will it stick? No idea, but we're hanging right under 70,000 right now. I'd like to, maybe hang out here a little bit longer, but as they say, the more times you come up into resistance and butt up against it in a chart, the weaker that resistance gets. So one of these times it's got to break to the upside. Will it happen this particular time? This week, next week? I don't know, but I think certainly by the summer, the structure of it is looking pretty good. So excited.
You had that Ethereum 20% pop.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
Now will that ETF finally come to fruition? Because we were talking last week, I was like, I didn't think it would be here till August at least. I think that's when the BlackRock app was due. But then I think last night, like Fidelity, VanEck, everybody updated their applications, I guess, for approval this week because SEC was talking about, hey, this could happen sooner than later. And another thing we talked about last week was Trump, coming out and saying he was pro crypto. And wouldn't you know, the U-turn /180 that occurred that's all it took is less than 2 weeks. And, a lot of left-leaning anti-crypto people, instead of going for the ultimate own goal in election season and, just alienating an entire audience of crypto investors, which would have been the dumbest call ever. They finally, I think, a lot of them saw the light. Now, Elizabeth Warren, she's, she can afford to grandstand or whatever. But a lot of these others, I think they saw the light and, started, voting accordingly. So I didn't see what happened today with that bill or if that vote has taken place yet. But it was sounding pretty darn positive for crypto this week. So whether we actually get it or not, another story. But if we do, I think we can hold these levels and eventually move higher.
A big part of the left-leaning argument against crypto is purely environmental. They like to use the electricity argument.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but be consistent. Why don't you talk about the electricity that EVs are gonna have to require, that we're gonna have to produce electricity for that. But as I've said in a couple of forums, the difference is on the auto side for EVs, there's an enemy, and it's called fossil fuel. On the crypto side, there isn't an enemy other than just the electricity issue. And so it's kind of like, come on, pick your spot, because we could never, the grid is not ready for EVs. We won't be ready for 50 years to support the kind of EV saturation that some people like to see in garages, because the service isn't there. The electrical service is not there on pretty much any street in the United States to support everybody having an EV. So, this is a classic case of, just force this on everybody. And frankly, they're losing their buns at the automakers. So this is part of this argument. It's just like there's a lot of people that are suddenly starting to come around to nuclear as a power alternative while we wait to see what happens to wind and solar on that slow climb up. But crypto is just a victim of a different agenda, and because there's really no other basis in fact. It's not like these are people who are defenders of the currency. You know what I mean? Of the American dollar.
I mean, there are the folks out like the Jamie Dimons and stuff out there that really don't like.
Market share.
Yeah, they really don't like crypto. Nice there, Cabana, on the video. So there are those people that are like true defenders of like the traditional financial system.
Jamie Dimon has no desire to have anything happen that would infringe on bank dominance in this country.
Of course not.
Okay, I mean, he's too busy. Between him and what's his face at B of A, Brian. They're just. More fees. Don't, because
are there people that don't see through that? I mean, are there other people that are that dense that believe these guys when they talk?
The average public doesn't even pay attention. I mean,
they're
worried about what.
Not to mention those guys were both the CEOs of their organizations during the Great Financial Crisis, and they were bankrupted. And they're still around today and now billionaires.
Well, there's a codependent relationship between the government and the banks. And if you want to really see it in full bloom, look at Canada, where there's only a handful of banks. They are absolutely locked and loaded with the government. The government can't do anything with economic policy without the banks. And we're not much different. But I think, when you look at the history of these banks, all they've done is just grow through acquisition. And they just kill their competition. B of A, before we had national banking, when Glass-Steagall was still being followed as a rule, where you couldn't have a bank with a national footprint. And then we had the Texas savings and loan disaster happen in the 80s, which forced Glass-Steagall to be, looked aside from and not enforced, because Citibank went into Texas to bail out the banks there, and then suddenly they could go do interstate banking. And that's when it broke. And suddenly it was Bank of Boston, which had been around since the 1800s, and Fleet Bank in Boston merged. And then B of A came in and bought them. And that's why Boston is now where B of A is, predominantly parked itself. At least that's where Brian's sitting. So crypto, when you talk to people in banking, they just see it as just a monumental threat.
Sure.
And it's a systems issue. It's a technology issue for the banks as much as it is strategic. Their back office systems are archaic.
Yeah. There's the most interesting argument I've seen lately on that is that the Bitcoin and Ethereum now maybe have actually, like, because there were such existential threats. That's cool there, and nice job, Kavana. They've been institutionalized so that the banks can, like, get their piece instead of them being a total existential threat to the banking system, And now actually Bitcoin is part of the system, not an anti-system thing, And there's logical reasons to think that.
Well, just watch the banks. They eventually give in because they can't say no to the money. The banks refuse to process and allow credit cards and debit cards to be used in states where marijuana is not legal, where, it was a cash-only business, as an example. And the banks finally just said, okay, we're seeing all this transaction volume and we're not participating. And suddenly now they're loosening all those restrictions and you're seeing that open up. They'd like to see crypto go away, but when they wake up and realize it's not going anywhere, suddenly they'll be all over it. And they're going to want to control it. That'll be a problem.
And BlackRock was the front runner for that because they saw the value.
Right.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I saw some charts pop up in Twitter. These were obviously screenshotted yesterday, but kind of like what I was talking about. These are just some of the majors. So you had like Solana, which I don't really mess with too often, but the structure is similar. So you have kind of like this double topish kind of back in March, and we're starting to creep back up. Like that Binance BNB chart upper right looks so good right now, and even Bitcoin right here. Both of those just look absolutely tasty on a technical basis. So it's crypto summer. We could see it. I don't know.
I thought I saw a little bit
Cabana's ready to go out to the backyard and dig up the rest of his cash.
There's one of those.
He's going in.
Charts. One of those charts had a little bit of what looks like the beginning of a head and shoulders pattern. So one of those may be ready to roll over here in about, have to look at the scale on that one again. But the technicians would say that. What's that?
10-for-1 stock split on NVIDIA. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just saw that.
He caved.
Yeah.
Kramer got to him.
Yeah.
You split your stock.
No, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with crypto short term. I'm pretty cautious on the whole markets in general right now. And I think there's just a lot of complacency out there. So, but
5 months from now, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, Dan, when all the banks and all these institutions and all these people decide that it's just gotten to the point where they can't ignore it anymore, and they all within a week just decide we're all in, it's going to be a pretty interesting time.
Well, and keep your eyes on Fidelity, because they can do more if they decide to than anybody in terms of democratizing this and bringing all kinds of new product structure to market, because you'll see a proliferation of funds, much more so than we've seen, and then the ability to the trading desk, that's where they see all the big upside is in the transaction processing, where they're going to start working with trades, and they've got the technology backbone that's bigger and stronger than pretty much anybody's. Plus, we get to the retirement account environment and using crypto for retirement accounts and things of that nature. That's their backyard.
Yeah.
Right now they're fighting it. Like, I had a meeting with my financial guy a month ago. He was not happy I had Bitcoin. It's crazy. They don't want you to be,
Oh no, that's money that they should be investing and earning fees on.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
They should be making management fees.
We need more middlemen.
Yes.
Right. You're outside of the system. They don't like it.
Yeah. They resisted selling other people's mutual funds through their online platform for years while Schwab was doing it. And they were seeing billions of dollars of flows leaving to go buy other funds. And they finally said, okay, we'll open up a full supermarket. And now they'll sell more of other people's funds than they sell of their own. And they still sell a ton of their own. So eventually people come around because the math doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And somebody sits at a boardroom table and says, all I know is we're losing, $5 billion went out last month to other competitors. And from what we can tell, it was going for crypto. Because I used to do that there when I was making a case for adding new product. I'd show them how much money was going out the door. I'd show them the checks.
And if somebody's going to get it anyway, you might as well, join up, or you're just going to lose it all.
That's right. It's all about market share and control of it's called household wallet share in the business. It's what share of that household's wallet do you control? Do you have all their money? Do you have some of their money? Do you have their retirement money? Do you have their trading money? Do you have their mutual fund money? How much do you control? Well, crypto is going to be a bigger and bigger piece. And if you don't have that, that will be associated with trading revenue. So people who are going to trade crypto are also people who are likely trading stocks. And that's the biggest moneymaker for a place like that.
Yeah.
So they go hand in hand. So it's a very hard one to separate out. The pressure is intense internally, I'm sure.
Go to Robinhood. One thing item we do need to talk about before we break is the award for May, and I've got the list here. And I think we can at least just look at this.
I voted for Spacely Sprockets.
Mr. Spacely.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but here's the 4 companies.
Trying to. Let's see.
We have, Cislunar, Astroscale, TrustPoint GPS, and Vast Space are the 4 nominees.
Oh, TrustPoint's in there? That's interesting. I know TrustPoint. I know them quite well, as does Ammo. Vast, I know. They're doing great work. I mean, they're pretty far along, Vast, and they're going to make a big impact. Cislunar, I think the world of that company, Gary Kalnin, the founder, they're doing a lot of great work. I mean, these are all great companies. There isn't a weak link. TrustPoint is just a different, they're really building a next generation GPS encrypted, unhackable, undeniable platform. They're much more on the security side for GPS. The others are very clearly focused on debris. Even Vast Space is going to have to deal with debris.
Cool. Yeah, so at TrustPoint, I was just reading their protect space infrastructure, providing precise reason and positioning. I was just wondering what they're.
Yeah. So what they're going to do is they're going to help in the approach and capture with their capabilities. So
that makes sense.
If you think back to when I would talk about the Orbital Prime initiative for debris, a couple of years ago that SpaceWorks put up.
Yeah.
That's now deep into phase 2. One of the 3, there were 3 things. Identification and approach capture, and then disposition of
That
debris.
makes sense.
Those are the 3 areas. So anybody who can do PNT, position, navigation, and timing, is really good, because it's this 3-dimensional space of approaching and trying to get up and dock, if you will, or rendezvous with a piece of junk and then pull it in. So it's pretty sophisticated stuff. So
Cool.
that's where they can play a part.
All right, cool. I'm good with that. And the hedge fund is invested in Trust Point as well. So full disclosure there, but not any of these other companies.
Right.
But yeah, that does make sense on the debris cleaning stuff. So anyways, if there's any other discussion, or we can submit these, and I think everybody votes on them with their coins, and then figure out how to get them their money if they're selected.
I'd say if I had to put them in order in my head, just in terms of long-term market impact and value of a company's contribution to the debris thing, cislunar long-term is going to be a real key component of that whole economy. Trust Point will be a facilitator. And I think the beneficiaries will be companies like Vast, who are going to have a defensive and offensive strategy to keep their stations from running interference and clearing out an alleyway of debris by hitting their stuff. So, and then Astroscale is a really strong company.
Cool. Any other comments? Cool. Looks good to me.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll send it on to the group. Our technical guys will do that however they do it.
Yeah. Let the technical guys do their technical stuff.
So, cool.
All right. Well, it's good seeing everybody.
Yeah. Good to see you guys too.
Absolutely. Good to see you back.
We'll go listen to the NVIDIA earnings call. See how much energy is going to be wasted on NVIDIA chips powering AI and
Oh boy,
crypto and
ban NVIDIA.
Yeah, ban NVIDIA.
Let's have a bill in Congress to ban that too. Ban NVIDIA, ban Bitcoin. They're all bad.
Google or Amazon or somebody says that they're like 100% sustainable at this point. I'm like, there's no way. That's not true. I don't believe that. So.
Well, if Nancy sells hers, it's time to get out, right?
Yeah.
Aren't there groups or people that just trade anything she trades? They follow her trades, and they're making a ton of money.
Even Presidente Portnoy from Barstool just put out a video that hit Twitter, and he was like, "Can somebody just give me the list of all the stocks that Nancy Pelosi bought? That's all I want to do. I just want to buy that."
Yeah, well, there's a list. There's a list of them at the SEC, but they've been put in the bottom drawer and locked up. Never be looked at. It's unbelievable.
It is.
But hey, look what it did for Martha Stewart, right?
That's right.
She
wasn't a politician
for Congress. That was the missing piece to her plan.
Yeah. Well, no, she went to the dark side, and now she's best friends with Snoop Dogg. So go figure. So,
yeah, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to her, right?
Yeah, it probably was. She used to be a stockbroker. That's how she started. And
really?
She in New York City, and then she used to give great parties at her place all the time, and people just used to comment like, "Man, you're really good at this," and that's how she launched herself as something other than a broker.
Wow.
She just started doing that. She got some friends with some money in addition to herself, and voila, there she was.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, till next
week, everybody.
Yep. You too. Everybody have a good week.
Bye.
Ciao.
See ya.